guys, yesterday I showed you a little video clip of the Battle of Guadalcanal. Did you like that? Was that all right? All right, good. Thanks for the affirmation. All right, wonderful. Oh, thank you. Okay, so be prepared for more of that. So Richard Tregaskis, guys, is the journalist that's embedded with our Marines. Okay, he will survive that battle. He will leave, and we'll meet up with him later on today in Sicily. Okay, but we've got to finish some things in North Africa. So we're going to be victorious in the Guadalcanal. Okay, now what the American people saw in the newsreels when they went to the movies was much milder than what we watched yesterday. Okay, so the newsreels always it's propaganda, guys. They're trying to paint a rosy picture of what's going on, okay, in the war. So these people that landed on this island, these Marines that were stuck there for weeks on their own, would not only survive, but they would win victory, and we would control the airfield at Guadalcanal, not the Japanese, okay? Now, so if you recall, guys, we have something to finish up, and that is the Battle of North Africa, okay, where I said I would come back and we'd finish it later. Because the original American troops landing in the European theater, they will land, remember, at Casablanca, Oran, okay, and Algiers here, okay. So, if you'll also recall, ladies and gentlemen, from the east, General Bernard Montgomery has been pushing General Erwin Rommel, the Desert Fox, back towards Tunisia. So the British are pushing the Germans back here. The Americans land here, originally fighting against French and Italian troops. Okay, then they will do what's called a pincer movement, where the British and the Americans will collide into the Germans. Okay. The Americans will first face the Germans here at Kasserine Pass. Got a 5-minute video that I'm going to show at the end of the class for you guys on that. Okay. So guys, since I'm recording today, I'm going to save video for the end of the day. Okay. So I'll show you some desert warfare. The video I'm going to show you on North Africa will also talk about how General Friedendahl, who was in charge of the First Army here, will be relieved of duty after the Battle of Kasserine Pass, and they will put General George S. Patton in charge of the First Army, okay, which is a history-changing move, okay, because Patton will become vital to winning the war in Europe, okay, for the Americans. And so will the U.S. First Army. So, by May, Axis forces would surrender. Okay, we are going to capture 16 German generals and 250,000 German troops. Oh my gosh, right? Like, what are we going to do with all these Germans? Where? You got to feed them. You know what I mean? You got to house them. There's rules for treating prisoners of war. Now, we don't want to just cut them loose and let them go back to Germany and fight us later on, right? Any idea what we do with these 250,000? Now, let me just tell you this. Guys, we won't capture 25,000 Japanese in the entirety of the war. We capture 250,000 right here, okay? So, yeah. Yes, we do. Okay, we are going to build prisoner of war camps in the United States for German POWs. Okay, if you go straight up 135 in Concordia, Kansas. So if you go straight up towards the Nebraska border, go past Salina and just keep going north. Okay. you'll run into Concordia before the Nebraska border. Okay, it's a horrible drive. If you ever go to Nebraska football games, that's one of the ways you drive up there. Okay, and it goes straight up to York, Nebraska, and then you hang a right, you wind up in Lincoln. Okay. So what these German soldiers would do when we brought them back to the United States is we put them in prisoner of war camps, and then in the morning we would march them out, and they would work on the farms, the neighboring farms. They'd work all day, and then they'd march them back into the POW camp and feed them dinner, bed them down, get up and do it again the next day. Okay, and this is pretty early in the war. It's 1943. Okay, so these POWs are going to be in these camps for a couple of years. And from everything that I've read about this, guys, we have these camps in Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas. We didn't run into a lot of problems with these POWs. I think many of them were glad to be out of the war. Now, what's kind of weird, though, is some of your people in this room, you people of German ancestry, some of your people owned some of these farms that the German POWs would go out and farm, which meant those farmers, those American now farmers, immigrants, that still spoke German, had these German POWs working on their land. Okay, so if you were, say, from Czech or Sweden or somewhere else, and you were an immigrant farming in Kansas or Russia, and you knew these German farmers were having these German POWs on their farms, they might make you feel a little bit uncomfortable when they were heard speaking German to each other. You know what I mean? It's kind of a weird dynamic, okay? But an interesting one nonetheless, okay? So, now, we are preparing for the, I say, secret invasion of Italy through Sicily, okay? It's not so secret, okay? What are we going to do next, right? We could open a front in France. We're not ready to do that. So we're still going after the soft underbelly of the beast. So as we move through this, guys, we'll talk about Sicily and then Italy, okay? And then I'll save some time at the end of the hour for some video, okay? So good here. Battle of North Africa, overall a great success. Mostly, I should say, because of the British Eighth Army. I mean, the Americans played a role here, but we didn't do the heavy lifting. Okay. All right. This just shows you, this is the tip of Tunisia here. Okay, so you can see the lines. Okay, this is the last line of German resistance as the British 8th Army here. Then you get the Americans, 1st Armored Division coming in here, 9th Infantry. This is all of the U.S. 1st Army. Okay, so this is where we will capture or kill the Germans, but mostly they just surrender. Their backs are to the wall. Okay, in this picture, you got General Eisenhower, General Montgomery. This is Omar Bradley here. Okay, so this is a good time to point this out. Okay, I want to talk about this. The command structure for the European theater. Oh my. Okay, so. All right. Not sure what that was. All right, so in charge, okay, you've got obviously your political leaders, Roosevelt, Churchill, okay, their chiefs of staff, okay, so these are some famous names in here, okay. William Leahy, chairman of Joint Chiefs, George Marshall, who will go on to become Secretary of State later on after the war. They'll name the Marshall Plan after him, which is a major foreign policy success after World War II. Ernest King in charge of the Navy. Henry Hap, they called him Hap Arnold, head of the Army Air Forces. Okay, you see the British command structure. For the French, Charles de Gaulle was in exile, the French leader. Okay, and then you break down here. Here's your military leadership. Okay, so Dwight Eisenhower is going to be named the Supreme Allied Commander. Now, besides American and British troops, what other countries are going to be represented when it comes to fighters in Europe? Yeah, Canada, for sure. Australia, yes. New Zealand, South Africa. Okay, so the British Commonwealth of Nations. Okay, now who's going to end up providing the most troops in Europe besides the Russians or the Germans? Yeah, the U.S. Okay, so we're going to provide more troops than the British will and their Commonwealth. Okay, so we're going to put an American in charge. Okay, and that now. Was Eisenhower the top general in America at that time? The answer is no. But Roosevelt recognized that Eisenhower was a good people person. Like, he got along well with others. And because you're going to have so many different allies there fighting, he needed somebody that could work well with others. So he chose Eisenhower. That turned out to be a very wise decision. Okay. For instance, guys, after the French surrender in North Africa, you've got French generals coming to Eisenhower saying, hey, let me lead the French troops in North Africa. We'll help you. And I've read a book about this, guys. And really what Eisenhower wanted from the French was just to go away. He really did not want the French involved. Okay. But he had to deal with it. Okay. Deputy commander here, Arthur, these guys I don't really know a lot about. Okay. But when we look at the Naval Expeditionary Force, Bertram Ramsey, okay, and then here, 21st Army Group, check this out. General Bernard Montgomery, where's he from? Where's Monty from? He's British. Now look who's underneath Monty. Okay, you've got Omar Bradley, 1st Army. This is later on. It's going to be Patton, first Friedendahl, then Patton. Patton's going to have his army taken away from him because he's a bad boy. He gets in trouble. Okay. Eventually, he will lead the U.S. 3rd Army. But Patton was here. Okay. You got Miles Dempsey, British 2nd Army. Okay. 5th Corps. This is D-Day. Okay. So listen. Montgomery was in charge of the ground troops in Europe. So Montgomery, the Brit, reported to the American, but American generals had to report to the Brit, Montgomery. And our generals did not like that because they did not like Montgomery. Okay. And this really caused a lot of consternation for Eisenhower, but it also paid dividends. Okay. Because Monty, he wanted the glory, but so did our generals, which is going to create this rivalry, like a sibling rivalry between the British generals and the American generals. And it's going to drive them to kick more ass, really, is what it's going to do. Okay. We have ourselves a genuine testosterone contest here. Or, to put another way, excuse my French, a pissing contest between Patton and Monty. Okay. Now, ladies, I don't know if you know this. I can't believe I'm saying this on a recording. But ladies, I don't know if you know this. When these guys were younger, these boys, I don't know if you guys did this. Me and my friends did. We could see who could pee the furthest, you know? Like, yeah, there was this one dude that could pee, like, on the roof. Like, he could get it up on the roof. Okay, I was like, you win. Okay. Sorry. I didn't really need to go there. But it's childish in a way, yes? Okay. We're all on the same team. But everybody wants the glory, guys. They want their names in the history books. Okay. Well, they're all there. Right? Yeah.
Why did Eisenhower just want to go away? I mean, wouldn't more troops be a good thing?
Yeah, but then he's got to deal with them.
Does that have something to do with it?
Sure it does. I mean, they've surrendered twice already in World War II. What's the Germans now to us? You be the judge. Yeah. Yeah, so for a while, so you had the puppet state. Once we took that territory in North Africa, it was no longer a puppet state. Yeah. But Vichy France would remain until after D-Day. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about Sicily. Here's that rivalry. Okay, now guys, this turns out to be the largest amphibious invasion in history. 250,000 British and American troops are going to land on this island of Sicily. Now, you guys know the toe of Italy is right here, okay? So, right there, okay? So, it's like the foot is kicking a ball, right? All right. So, this is July 10th, 1943, all right? Now, there are German and Italian troops occupying this island of Sicily, okay? Who's in charge of drawing up the battle plan for the ground troops? Monty. Now, guys, this is a topographical map. So the darker the color red, the higher the elevation. Sicily is a mountainous island. The largest being Mount Etna here. It's a volcanic mountain. Okay. So right here is where the British are going to land. The British 8th Army. Now, if you look, if you're going to try and get the victory and defeat the Germans in Sicily, the easiest and quickest path is right there. Because we recognize that the Germans would probably retreat to the high ground. Okay? That's the smartest thing to do. Patton and the U.S. First Army are told they land here. They got to clear the island of Germans and Italians and then meet Monty at the Etna line where we think most of the Germans will be. Now, Patton is angry about this because he knows Monty's setting himself up to be the hero. Right? So what does Patton do? Patton tells his troops, go. Do not stop. Wade through the enemy. Kill them. And keep moving. Who's going to get to the Etna line first? Patton. Okay? Monty's going to take his sweet time. Okay? Patton and the U.S. First Army are going out and they are just kicking butt. Okay? Now, the Italians, guys, are not long for this war. Fighting against Ethiopians is one thing. Fighting against the American troops, who now have a little bit of experience, is different. And they've got a commander that won't let them waver. So Patton gets here first, and he's waiting on Monty. What took you so long? Okay? Now, what happens in reality, guys, is that the Germans are going to flee. Okay? They're going to flee across to the toe of Italy, most of them. Okay? What troops are here? German and Italian, we will handle. Okay? So the Italians have had enough. Okay? And Mussolini is arrested. Now, over the next 2 years, there will be attempts by Hitler to rescue Mussolini. Okay? At the end of the war, near the end of the war, Mussolini will escape captivity. And he will be caught in northern Italy trying to cross the border. He's in disguise. He'll be caught. He will be dragged through the streets behind an automobile, where, of course, he will die. And then he will be shot in the head, between the eyes, and hung in a town square for people to pay their last respects. So this picture is actually taken in 1945. Okay. Here, this is Mussolini. Okay. Hanging next to him is his mistress, who met the same fate. Okay. Yeah.
The Italians that did that?
Yes, the Italian people. Okay. Oh, and let me tell you guys, when we liberated France, the French that collaborated with the Nazis were met by a lot of angry French people. The ones that worked with the Nazis, oh yeah. People wanted blood. Like we had to prevent French from killing French. Okay. People were angry. Because there was a lot of collusion with the Nazis. Okay. So the Germans fortify Italy. Now, even though Italy's going to drop out of this war, does that mean the Germans are just going to go home? No. They're going to leave something like 23 divisions in Italy to hold it. Now, have any of you guys been to Italy yet? Okay. Highly recommend it. Like, if you're going to go to Europe, you need to go to Italy. Okay. First of all, the people are friendly. Okay. And they do somewhat like Americans. Okay. Which you won't find in France. Okay. They don't like us. They look down at us. Okay. And with good reason, for some good reasons. We are a little cocky and brash, you know. I mean, we're just, yeah. We think we're the cock of the walk, if you will. Okay. And they think they're smarter than we are, which they might be. Yeah, I don't know. But anyhow, the food in Italy is the best food I've ever had in my life. Like, hands down. The worst food in Europe is in Britain. It's disgusting. Except for the fish and chips. Fish and chips, if you like fried cod, French fries, it's good. Okay. It's authentic and it's awesome. So I can live off of that. So that's what their breakfasts are just ugh.
Beans for breakfast.
Oh, it's just their ham is different. It's just they don't do bacon, they do ham. It's not a big ham guy. Yeah. So anyhow, yeah. So guys, Italy, it is mountainous. Italy is hilly. They have 4 seasons like we do. Okay, so you know it can be some tough terrain. Okay, and I'm going to be showing you some video. Okay, Richard Tregaskis and others. Okay, so I just put this slide together to kind of show you a couple of different things. Okay, first of all, the invasion of Sicily, the largest invasion in history, amphibious. Okay, mostly run by the Royal Navy. Okay, they did a lot of the troop carrying, but most of the troops were Americans. Okay, so you can kind of see from that. This is the British land here. We're going to land over here. Okay, this is a large troop carrier. Okay, flat bottom here. This is obviously a ship. Okay, a different way of landing troops, more difficult here because this gets stuck on the beach. This is easier to get off the beach. Okay, so this is evacuation. So this is when we're losing the war. Okay, now we didn't get in until almost 42, but the British, Norway. Okay, so these are evacuations running from the Germans. Okay, they go June. You got Norway, Dunkirk, west coast of France, British Somaliland, Greece, Crete, Singapore, Southeast Asia. Okay, and then you can see the tide turn in our favor once we go on the aggression, on the offense. Madagascar, 1942. Torch is North Africa, Operation Torch. Husky is Sicily. Avalanche is Salerno, Italy. Shingle is Anzio, Italy. And then you get to June of 44. Okay, you get D-Day, which is the beaches of France. South of France in August of 44. Holland, which is Netherlands. November 44. Burma, that's Southeast Asia. And Dracula, again, in Burma. Okay, that's where we're helping the Chinese. Okay, so that's just kind of a cool slide. Just bring you up to date on some stuff. Okay, so let's look at Italy. Okay, so here's Sicily. okay, your British 8th Army, the British are going to go to the toe of Italy, okay, which is going to be easy to defend because it's a small area for the Germans, okay? The Americans are going to land at Salerno, okay? Some British as well, but here at Salerno, okay? And Rome is here. Okay, so from the time we landed on Sicily to the time we take Rome will be just about a year. Take about a year to go from here to here. Okay, and it's some of the worst fighting of the war for the Americans. I've got another map here, okay, and this is topographical. Okay, so the darker the shaded areas, the higher the elevation. You can see where the hills and mountains are in southern Italy. Okay, and this is Salerno, okay, where we land. All right, so when the Allies forces landed on the toe of Italy, they met fierce resistance. Would not be till June 5th, 1944, that we would take Rome. One of the deadliest campaigns of the war. Okay. 23 divisions of the German army. Now, guys, the resistance in Italy will remain the entire war until Germany surrenders. So when the Russians take Berlin, the Germans are still fighting in North Africa. And then they stop. Okay. Or I said not North Africa, North Italy. Okay. Now, guys, the history books kind of stop with the liberation of Rome. Because look at the date. June 5th, 1944, we liberate Rome. What happens the next day? What? No. This is 44. The war goes to 45. D-Day. The beaches of Normandy. The landing in France happens the next day after Rome is liberated. So the world's attention, historians' attention, all move from Rome to Normandy, France. So what happens north of Rome gets kind of left out of the history books, okay? And guys, I've been teaching this a long time, and I did the same thing. Like, I quit talking about Italy. Now, one thing that does happen, guys, once we start taking these lines, and guys, each one of these lines is brutal. The Germans have the high ground. They've got those 88 millimeter guns. They've got machine gun nests, artillery positions. Guys, this is brutal warfare. And I'm going to show you in the video, okay? Until the last time we went to Italy, we went with a tour group the second time. My wife and I just went by ourselves in '99 and then went back 4 years ago. We went tour group. We met in Venice, okay? And guys, Venice, you got to go to. It's got to be on your bucket list, guys. There's no other place on earth like it, okay? Went to Venice, and we're going to take a bus from Venice to Rome, or to Florence. Florence is up here, okay, further north. And our tour guide asked us, she said, is there anything not on the agenda that you want to see while we're in Italy? And we had a Vietnam vet with us. And he said, well, how about something pertaining to World War II while we're here? And so our tour guide didn't tell us, but on the way to Florence, we made a surprise stop. Okay. And I have some pictures from that surprise stop. This is a cemetery, an American cemetery in northern Italy, outside of Florence. I had no idea this existed. In 1999, when my wife and I went to Europe, we did a day and a half in Normandy, France, and went to the cemetery, the American cemetery in Normandy. How many of you guys have ever seen the movie Saving Private Ryan? Okay, so that movie starts and ends at the American cemetery in Normandy. okay, and near Omaha Beach, okay. This one I didn't even know existed. So when we pulled up to this, I was like, oh my gosh. It was all Americans are in this cemetery. Okay, so all of these Americans died in Italy. Okay, and the parents, the surviving spouses, and so forth, get to choose whether their loved one is buried where they died, okay, in Italy, or brought back. The number is roughly, surprisingly, to me it was 2/3 kept them in Italy and had them buried in Italy. Okay, so it's a beautiful cemetery, guys. The Italians take very good care of it, as do the French take care of our cemetery in Normandy. Okay, and I'll show you some pictures of that one later on. Okay, this guy right here, I just took a close up. You may not be able to see it. Grover G. Lynn, Staff Sergeant, 473rd Infantry Regiment. He's from Kansas. He died April 17th, 1945. 13 days before the war ended. Okay? So you go around, you look at these names on these crosses, okay? And it's really sobering to do so. I have some more pictures. Now this, I went, you get up to the top of the cemetery, and there's a guy there, like a tour guide, or he just stays there. He's like the guy in charge of the cemetery. Of course, I'm the history teacher, so I'm start asking questions. You know what I mean? I'm asking questions. And so this is a list of missing in action. People that went missing in action in Italy during World War II, Americans. Okay? And so, like, most of these, remember I told you about Coach Gann, who his job with the Marines was to go find these missing in action people, like in the Himalayan mountains, okay? Most of these names, and who read 500 in here, the forgotten 500, right? Guys, most of these are bombing crews, okay? Most of the names on here. So I got a good picture of this one here. Like the 718th Bomb Squadron, 449 Bomb Group. This guy is Harold Shivnik of Michigan. Okay, you see all these are bombed. Okay, not all of them, but most of them. Okay, and then I don't know if you can see this. There's a little dot right here. There's a dot here, and what that signifies is that their remains have been found since this cemetery was created. Okay, and so the curator of the cemetery told me, he said, yes, he said about 2 months previous, the guy was digging in his backyard and found bones. And they identified the soldier. He was from Arkansas. And they sent the bones back to the family. Okay, so, yeah, pretty interesting stuff, especially, when we talk about Father Capon, right, and finding his remains and so forth. So, guys, this was like one of the best parts of the trip for me. They show this map. Okay, so this is the Battle of Northern Italy here. Okay, and these are the different units that fought in Northern Italy. So, like here, this is the 10th Mountain Division. Okay, the Buffalo Soldiers here. Okay, Airborne 5th. Okay, 15th Airborne, and so forth. Okay, so this is kind of the forgotten history here. Okay, but the Germans did not give up easy here. Okay, and if I have time, I'll tell you a story. I got a story I want to read you and talk about. But for now, let's just we'll shut it down, and I want to show you some video from North Africa and then from Sicily and Italy. Okay.